But hey, speaking of quarterback, speaking of that offense, we know we for the last 2 years have averaged between 17 and 20 points, which with a great defense will get you to the playoffs. But with kind of bend but don't break the defense we have, it's one of those things where it's not going to work. We need somebody that's going to really help our offense elevate. Hey, and we fired Scott Turner. But where do we go from here? As we talked about a little bit earlier, we've been telling different offensive coordinators, hey, Sam Howell, this is the guy. This is what we're looking at, kind of making them implying that he will be the number one. And we see they know the other talent that we have on offense. But when you really look at it, Sam Howell, if we do go in that direction, you and I talked about is kind of a little bit like a little better Taylor Heineke, kind of the best of maybe Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke. So not too different from kind of what we were doing. And you asked an interesting question. Did we move maybe a little bit too hastily on firing Scott Turner? I hate to be the one that looks looks like, oh, wait a minute, because people are starting to reject us. So, I mean, what do you think, man?
Well, Sean, I want to first publicly praise you for what you just said there. You just said that Sam Howell is just a slightly better version than what we trotted out there.
I'm honest.
You are. I'm proud of you. But that's very important to recognize because you look at what we have and one of two things. Ron Rivera likes seasoned coaches.
Yeah.
While he had Scott Turner as his OC, he knew him. Scott was the QB coach in Carolina too. He's familiar with him. So he likes veteran coaches, which means we're probably not getting these hot shot guys, and we've talked about it. The other thing is, what do we have to offer an offensive coordinator to be attractive? Okay. We do have 3 very good wide receivers. We've got some running backs that can play. But you're hitching your wagons to an unproven quarterback.
Yeah.
And you're looking at this and if we take an objective look and step back and say, if you were to be somewhere else and looking at offensive coordinator opportunities, is Washington where you want to go? Do you really want to work with Sam Howell? Let's think about it. The Los Angeles Chargers are open. Mm-hmm. You could go coach Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. Or you could go coach Sam Howell. An unproven guy. And so that is playing a factor into the fact that we had our first rejection today. We wanted to interview Darrell Bevell, who he's bounced around as a coordinator for a while. He's had some success. He's down in Miami right now. And he said, thanks, but no thanks. To the Jets and to Washington. So either he's staying put where he is.
It's not just us.
It wasn't just us, yeah. So he's staying put, or he could be knowing there's other things out there. We also got rejected by 2 former head coaches, Frank Reich and Jim Caldwell. And he said, we're going to look at what head coaching opportunities are. And again, it's probably you really don't have something that much that I need to come join you. I don't need that job that bad. Right. So we've interviewed 2 guys. All right. I'm going to go over the 2 people we've interviewed. Then I'm going to go over the 2 or 3 people we may interview. Okay. And then we can kind of talk about what we think about them. Right. All right. So the first one is Pat Shurmur. All right. Ron Rivera connection. He coached with him in Philly when Pat was there for the first time. All right. So there's that connection that you got to have. And you said it last week. You did. Shout out to Sean Spencer. We had Kyle Shurmur as our practice squad quarterback. Yep. We fed the family a little bit. We all help each other out. So the thing with Pat Shurmur is if you look at it from the standpoint of he's been promoted twice as offense coordinator to become a head coach at another team. That's kind of positive when I think about that. However, he also got fired quickly from those teams, but they were the Browns and the Giants, who have been really bad. But the other big thing for me is his offenses haven't really had big numbers. The complaint about Scott was he was in the 20s in terms of production. That's where Pat Shurmur has been. Yeah. But the plus for him, he has been around a plethora of quarterbacks that he's helped develop. Donovan McNabb was under his tutelage when he was very young in Philly. He helped out Sam Bradford, had Bradford's best year of the year. And then he was also there for Case Keenum's big year in Minnesota. That's what got him hired for the Giants. Right. So he has had some things. He was named the AP Assistant Coach of the Year with the Vikings that year with Case Keenum for what he turn Case Keenum into. So there's some positives and negatives. I kind of feel the negatives outweigh the positives with him a little bit. He's also not going to get anybody excited if he gets hired. You're not going to sit there and go, yes.
And isn't his offense extremely complicated or like not intense, but like
complex?
Complex. That's yeah.
Well, if it, yeah, I don't know that, but if it is, that's not good. That's the last thing we need to be doing for a young quarterback. You know. So then we interviewed an in-house guy today, Ken Zampese. All right, he's been with the organization for a while. He's got a very famous last name. His father was a offense coordinator for many years. He's been with Sam Howell for a year now. So you kind of wonder, what's his relationship with Sam? How well does he know him? Is he also going to be able to keep that Ron Rivera heavy run game? Because he's been a part of that. My only thing is he's well traveled. He's been around for a while and hasn't been an offense coordinator. Why?
Right.
So those are the two that we've interviewed. We have put in a request for a couple folks. First one is Charles London. He's the quarterback's coach in Atlanta. He's also going to be the offensive coordinator at the Senior Bowl, which that's not bad to get that insight and see some of these guys. But he's never done this before. He's never called plays before. We've also asked to interview, and I might mess up this guy's last name, Eric Studesville. Okay. He is the Dolphins running back coach and assistant head coach. He's been kind of traveled around a little bit. But what I like about those two guys is they're coming from offenses that good to pick their brains. Mike McDaniel, this guy's the running back coach, and he turns people like Jeff Wilson into productive players.
Yeah.
Want to find out why. Charles London, I want to kind of hear, he's been around Arthur Smith now for a year. Kind of want to hear what does Arthur Smith like to focus on, because he's had a good, pretty good run game in Atlanta. Then the last one, and this is the one that I told you about off the air last week. It's gained a little bit of traction. Is could Eric Bieniemy be an option for us?
Yeah.
He's never called plays in Kansas City, which is why he's not a head coach. Everyone wonders why. He's not a play caller. And look what happened in Denver when they hired an offense coordinator that wasn't a play caller.
Exactly.
Disaster this year. So could he potentially come to Washington to get that opportunity? Now, I will caution this. I have concern about Andy Reid castoffs. He's burned us twice now with Donovan McNabb and Alex Smith. So I got concerns when Andy Reid said, hey, you want to go to Washington? Washington, you want this guy?
It's like, no. And didn't Leftwich just get fired as well?
He did.
There's another one.
No word yet on whether we've reached out to him yet. Kind of with Bieniemy, that's kind of more like a connecting dots type thing.
Exactly.
All right, so of those names, what do you think?
Well, first of all, definitely not Shermer, just because of what you had mentioned. Like, we do not need. Oh, I've heard that it was complicated. And shout out to Tina Winter. She was on the roundtable talking about Shermer just yesterday, and saying that one of the things that was the issue between this year and with Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones, as opposed to the previous years when he had Shermer, was that offense was so complicated. It wasn't, Daniel Jones wasn't able to just kind of read and react, if you will, on the fly. So that kind of, pushes me away, but I understand the connection. You already know Zambezi name, that rings a bell, and you're just like, wait a minute, I know you from where, you know what I mean? Like keeping it in-house, and I like that because it'll more likely be cheap. Keep in the house, keep with that familiarity, if we've known him. So it's not, because the only thing I have a problem with is we're always going to be dealing with, let's bring in a guy and then he has to get a year under his belt where he knows the guy and he's getting comfortable with him. If we're going to go ahead and start with somebody in-house as quarterback, why not do something real hush-hush and get a guy in-house, let him work with him so that I feel like if we get a guy in-house, they'll be more apt to say, Sam, what do you like? What are you thinking? I know from working with you kind of what directions you're in. Let's see what we can do with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
so
good point.
That, what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm thinking. I mean, if we're going to go with Sam Howell, if we're going to bring in somebody else and maybe, do whatever, applies to that situation. But with this, I think it would probably be best to stick with somebody in-house, but we'll see. We'll see, because there are other names that are out there. Like I just mentioned, Byron Leftwich and whatnot. Let's see what direction Ron and them want to go, because like you said, they want to do this run heavy offense, but to the point you and what was it Jack made on the last show, why are we sitting here claiming to be run heavy, even though that's our identity from the past? If we have what I dabbed the posse 2.0, you know what I mean, with Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Jahan Dotson, why aren't we trying to take the top off with these guys?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's where it's kind of a mixed bag of like, hey, what direction are you really going in, Ron and upper management? Because let's work to our strengths and stop trying to get somebody and then fit all our players into their scheme. Let's work to what worked, what's successful for us, so.
Right. I'm kind of with you too, kind of leaning. It's like Shermer's the more known name, but it's like he's not really gonna excite you too much. And it's like, all right, well, if it looks like we might be rolling with Sam Howell, are you that much further along with a coach who already knows what he's done for a year and who's been coaching him? So it's like, I'm not excited about Ken Zampese, but it's like, of all the names we're not gonna be excited about, is that better for us?
Right.
That's a good point.
Right. I mean, yeah, honestly, number one thing you want to do with a young rookie quarterback or a second-year guy at this point is you want to make him comfortable. You know what I mean? Keep him around people that he knows. That's why I always harped on that relationship with him and De'Ami Brown, because I wanted him to get comfortable. It's like, all right, we're cool. You've been here. I'm here now. We're good, So that's kind of what I'm leaning on. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, we will definitely be talking about this all off season.
Thanks for watching. If you like that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.